Have you ever been in a relationship where the more connected things got, the more they started pulling away? Where intimacy seemed to scare them, even though you could feel something real between you. You're not crazy, you're not too much. And no, you didn't imagine the connection. Hi, I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video I'm going to break down something most people never talk about: what avoidantly attached people actually do when they're in love. Because here's the paradox nobody warns you about. When an avoidant catches real feelings, they often start acting in ways that look the exact opposite of love. They might grow distant. They might shut down. They might stop doing the very things that made you feel close in the first place. That's not because they don't care. It's because for avoidance, love is vulnerable territory. It brings up fear, old wounds, and the terror of needing someone who could leave. So their instinct isn't to move closer, it's to retreat. But hidden underneath that withdrawal, there are signs, quiet, powerful signals that they're falling for you, even if they don't know how to say it out loud. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the subtle, often misunderstood behaviors avoidants show when they're truly emotionally invested. And number 4, it's something most people misread as rejection, but it's actually one of the clearest signs they care. If you've ever felt like you're loving someone who's half in, half out, or if you're trying to make sense of a connection that left you confused and questioning, this video will give you clarity. Subscribe now if you're ready to stop second-guessing yourself and start understanding what's really going on beneath the surface of avoidant love. Let's get into it. Here's what avoidants do when they're falling for you, and why you need to know the difference between fear and disinterest. 1. One of the most telling signs that someone with an avoidant attachment style truly cares is not in what they say, it's in the fact that they stay. That might sound simple on the surface, but for an avoidant, it's actually a huge deal. You see, when closeness starts to build, when emotional intimacy becomes real, their default wiring kicks in. Their nervous system reads it as a threat, not a comfort. For them, vulnerability feels like exposure. And exposure feels dangerous. So their first instinct is almost always to retreat, create space, pull away just enough to feel safe again. But love, real love, has a way of interrupting that pattern. If an avoidant is still in your life after things have gotten real, after you've seen parts of each other that go deeper than surface charm, then something important is happening. They're fighting their own impulse to run. They're overriding a long-standing protective reflex because, on some level, they don't want to lose the connection. That inner tension might not look graceful. They may seem inconsistent, a little hot and cold, or emotionally restrained. But if they're still there, not ghosting, not disappearing when emotions show up, then that presence is their quiet declaration. It says more than words ever could. Saying for them doesn't mean being emotionally fluent. It means not bolting when the relationship hits deeper emotional layers. And make no mistake, this is not easy for someone who spent their life depending on emotional self-containment. Their presence isn't passive. It's an effort. It's a choice that often goes unnoticed because we're so busy focusing on what they're not doing. But here's the reframe. When an avoidant resists the urge to withdraw, that's a powerful act of care. They're showing you in the only way they know how that you matter. If you've experienced this, if someone didn't leave when they easily could have, take a second to recognize that. It doesn't erase the challenges, but it does give context. Sometimes love from an avoidant doesn't look like full-throttle pursuit. Sometimes it looks like staying when it would be easier to disappear. Understanding this can help you stop personalizing the distance and start recognizing the progress. Quiet, imperfect, but real. 2. If you really want to know whether someone with avoidant tendencies is falling for you, don't just listen to what they say. Watch for the doors they start to unlock. Because for the avoidantly attached, letting someone into their personal world isn't something they do lightly. In fact, for most of their lives, they've built an inner fortress. Strong walls, carefully placed guards, and strict rules about what gets in and what stays out. This isn't just about privacy, it's about protection. Their emotional space is guarded for a reason. Deep down, they believe closeness makes them vulnerable. And vulnerability, in their experience, hasn't always felt safe. So if you start to notice them letting you in, even in small, almost forgettable ways, that's not just casual openness. That's a signal. It might not be obvious at first. You might not get a grand confession or a perfectly packaged story. Instead, you'll start to hear small things that feel different. They may mention something from their childhood that they don't usually talk about. They might reference a fear they have or something they struggle with internally, not in a dramatic emotional flood, but in quiet, passing moments. That's how you know you're being invited into a part of them that few people get to see. Avoidants don't give emotional access easily. They don't open up because they want attention or approval. They do it when trust begins to take root. And trust for them is a slow, fragile thing. So when they start letting you glimpse the world behind their walls, their inner thoughts, their fears, the memories that shape them, that's not just small talk. That's intimacy, avoidance style. Now here's the thing, they may downplay it as they do it. They might even make a joke right after they share something serious. This is part of their protective strategy. Vulnerability often feels risky, even shameful for them. So they'll give you a moment of truth, then cover it up as if it didn't matter. But don't be fooled. That moment did matter. In their world, it might have taken a tremendous amount of emotional courage just to say it out loud. That's why your reaction matters so much. If you meet their vulnerability with safety, not judgment, not pressure, just presence, they start to associate intimacy with security instead of threat. That's when more doors start to open. Not all at once, but slowly and deliberately. That's when you begin to earn access to a side of them even they don't fully understand. And once you're in that space, even if they don't always show it, they know you're different. You're not just another person in their life. You've become someone they let inside the walls. And that matters. Because for the avoidant, letting you into their inner world is the emotional equivalent of saying, "You're someone I trust enough to see me unfiltered, not curated, not perfect, just real." If you've had this experience, if someone who usually keeps things close to the chest suddenly starts showing you pieces of who they really are, don't underestimate the significance of that. They might not call it love. They might not even realize they're doing it. But on a nervous system level, they're telling you you're safe enough to bring closer. And that's not nothing. That's intimacy that's been earned. That's love showing up not in sweeping gestures, but in slow, vulnerable steps. 3. When someone with an avoidant attachment style begins to care deeply for you, they probably won't say it out loud. Not at first. Words like, "I love you," don't come easily to them. Not because the feeling isn't there, but because saying it requires a level of emotional vulnerability they're not always ready for. Verbal affection feels risky. It exposes them, and exposure for an avoidant often feels more threatening than comforting. So instead of giving you poetic declarations, they show love in other ways, quiet, practical, deeply intentional ways. They might not flood your phone with romantic texts, but they'll remember that you prefer oat milk in your coffee. They'll fix something that's been broken in your apartment without being asked. They'll take care of something small that's been on your to-do list for weeks. These acts may seem minor, even mundane, but in the avoidance world, they are everything. That's how they say, "I see you, I care, I'm paying attention." This is love in action, not performance, not flair, but consistency. For someone who grew up associating closeness with pressure or unpredictability, showing up in dependable, useful ways feels safer than emotional closeness. Reliability becomes their love language. They might not initiate deep heart-to-heart conversations, but when your car won't start or you need someone to walk your dog last minute, they'll be there. That's not random, that's attachment in motion, in the only way they've learned to offer it. It can be easy to miss these signs if you're someone who values words or physical affection more openly. You might feel like something's lacking if you're measuring their love based on traditional expressions, but take a step back and really look. If they're showing up for you in ways that make your life easier, even in small, unglamorous ways, that's emotional investment. That's how they give when giving words feels too exposed to through. So no, they may not smother you with compliments or constant affirmations, but if they're consistently there, if they anticipate your needs without making a show of it, if they're offering practical support instead of poetic promises, that's love. Their version of it anyway. And while it might not be wrapped in romance, it's often far more real than empty declarations that come without follow-through. Sometimes the most powerful "I love you" is the one that shows up without ever needing to be said. Or, one of the most misunderstood behaviors in an avoidant partner is their tendency to create distance. It can feel sudden, even painful. One minute things feel close, and the next they seem emotionally out of reach. If you've ever been on the receiving end of this, you know how disorienting it can be. But here's the nuance most people miss. When an avoidant cares, they may step back. That return isn't accidental, it means something. Avoidants are wired to protect themselves from emotional overwhelm. Intimacy triggers parts of them that still believe closeness equals risk. So when things get too emotionally intense or too vulnerable, their reflex is to retreat. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they don't yet feel fully equipped to sit in that level of closeness. Think of it like emotional overheating. They need to step away to regulate. But what matters isn't just that they pull back. What matters is whether they return when an avoidant circles back after space, especially without being chased or guilted into doing so. That's a subtle yet powerful sign. It means something inside them trusts that you're not a threat, that your connection, despite all the noise in their nervous system, still feels safer than silence. And for someone with an avoidant attachment style, safety is love. Not the butterflies, not the rush, but the quiet knowing, I can come back here and not lose myself. They might not be able to put this into words. They may act like nothing happened, as if their absence didn't shake you, but underneath that calm surface, their return is saying, "You're different. I'm willing to try again." And that willingness, that's where the work is. That's where healing starts. It doesn't mean the relationship is easy or that they're suddenly secure, but it does mean that something about you, your steadiness, your presence, your emotional safety, made them feel like it was worth coming back to. So if you've seen this happen, if they pulled away but eventually found their way back without pressure or pleading, that's not just a cycle. That's attachment trying to find its way through fear. That's progress, even if it's quiet, even if it's messy. And it's one of the clearest signs that, underneath it all, they care more than they know how to say. Loving someone with an avoidant attachment style isn't always straightforward. Their feelings don't always show up in the ways we expect or hope for. But if you look closely, their actions tell a deeper story. One of quiet effort, guarded trust, and small but significant signs of care. From letting you into their private world, to showing love through service instead of words, to returning after pulling away. These are the moments that reveal what they may not be able to say. And while it's not your job to fix or wait indefinitely, understanding their behavior through this lens can offer you clarity, compassion, and the ability to choose what's best for you from a grounded, self-respecting place. Thank you so much for spending your time here and exploring this with me. I hope this video helped you feel more seen, more steady, and a little more empowered to navigate relationships that don't always make emotional sense on the surface. If this spoke to you, I'd truly love to hear your story. Leave a comment below. What resonated most? Have you seen these signs in someone you've been close to? Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you want more content like this, grounded, clear, and emotionally honest, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing this work together. Until next time, take care of your heart. And don't forget, real connection doesn't require chasing. It requires understanding, boundaries, and showing up for yourself first.